And he's going in against Woodley, who's lost to Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman, right? So you're wondering, and both of those guys, and if you look at this fight on paper coming into it, it's a terrible matchup for Tyron Woodley. It's been proven that he struggles with guys that pressure him, and that's all Colby Covington does. And he closes off space pretty well, and he actually uses his boxing pretty effectively to set things up, right? To set up his takedowns and stuff, and his clinch work up against the cage. Colby Covington, regardless, if you can just ignore all the noise, is a very talented fighter. He annoys me too when he's running his mouth on the mic, but he's trying to make money for himself and draw attention, and he's trying to be controversial. Whatever. Ignore all that. The man is super talented, and he's definitely one of the best in the division. And he just put it on Woodley, man. He just, like I said, Woodley, and you saw it, there were glimpses of Woodley utilizing some head movement and stuff and finding success and returning fire and countering. But there were also... And this has been a problem with Woodley throughout his career that you see, right? Like, he has a tendency to let himself get backed up against the cage. And when you're fighting guys like Darren Till and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, that's not necessarily a bad thing because they like to maintain space and you're explosive, right? And it's like, you saw that in both of those fights, Woodley was able to fire off the right hand as they were pressuring him, right? But when you got a guy like Covington, he wants to crowd your space, right? He wants to box you, and then he wants to work to take you down. So it's just a bad matchup stylistically, especially considering what you've seen from the last two fights, and Colby kind of exposed that, right? And like I said, you got to see glimpses of the fact that Tyron Woodley was a veteran in this fight. Like, you got to see him at the end of the second round starting to utilize a little bit of head movement, but overall, Covington just dominated him, man, just being honest. And now you look at, again, and kind of thinking about where Woodley's at in his career and what's next for him. I don't think retirement's a terrible option, man. Woodley is one of those guys who, like, he hasn't taken a ton of damage to the head throughout his career or anything like that. Like, he's definitely been hitting stuff, right? But he's been relatively, I think he's made it through most of his fights relatively unscathed, right? Like, he's definitely been in some wars and stuff and been hit, but I think get out while you have your mental health intact. It's just, you've had a great career. You've held the welterweight title. You're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You were a D1 wrestler, championship caliber wrestler. I mean, you've done enough in your career, and it just seems like as you get older, these guys like Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, they have a style matchup that's the best in your division have stylistic matchups that on paper don't bode well for you if you're Tyron Woodley. And the division is just, it's tough, man. It's going to be tough for Tyron Woodley to ever win a title again at 170 pounds. And if you're not fighting for that, if you're Woodley, what are you doing? Because Woodley has expressed that he has other interests throughout his career, right? Like he likes rapping and shit like that. And, I think he could pursue other things and be successful there. So if I'm Woodley, I'm seriously considering retirement, right? I think Woodley can be competitive against a lot of guys in the division. Like, if you put him against a lot of guys in the top 10, he might school him. You know what I mean? Woodley's strong. He's got good wrestling. He's still got tremendous power in his hands. And, if you get against someone who's not quite the caliber that Colby or Kamaru is, I think Woodley could probably have success. It's just, is that the type of career you want to have, right? Where you're successful until you run in against the very elite guys in your division. So, a lot of thinking to do for Woodley, but if I was him, I would be given serious consideration. I would seriously be considering retirement and exploring other options while